Hello, Clemens. Thanks so much for joining me and having a conversation about your involvement with the Composers Conference Chamber Music Workshop. I appreciate your taking the time. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how the Chamber Music
Sure.
Workshop is in your life.
So I'm 63 years old. I'm a physician, a kidney specialist. I've lived in a suburb of Boston, Belmont, since I was 6 years old. Um, and I got involved with the workshop through my wife. This will be her fourth year. It will be my third year. So she did it once at Wellesley, and then I joined the first year at Brandeis.
Mhm.
Um, I play violin. I I was I had a little bit of keyboard training as a child, and then one of my classmates at the private school I was at Cambridge Friends School was playing violin, and my father played violin, and I said I wanted to play violin. And so my father started to teach me, and then when I was in sixth grade, I started to take lessons with a local music teacher.
Hmm.
Um, and I took lessons from her on and off through consistently through high school, and then a little bit in college. Um, she was the mother of people I went to school with. She was, an accomplished violinist herself. Didn't push me very hard. My son, who was first a Mahler, he conducts, and he was first and plays trumpet, first a Mahler and then a Wagner enthusiast, has broadened my horizons, and I I, I, I happily listen to and play 20th century music now. Um, oh, so I grew up hearing music constantly, but I didn't have formal training, and I grew up in a town which is or was really infested with chamber musicians. In fact, one of my classmates liked to make the boast that that in our town had more Nobel laureates and more chamber musicians than any other town, either per square mile or per capita than any other town in the country. I don't know if that either was true. All of my Laura had this idea that everybody was going to take at least 5 years of piano. I think she accomplished that with two of them, but not with the boys. They all also played other instruments. First the violin, the second two trumpet, and the last French horn. So there was always a lot of music in the house. I played on and off until about 20 years ago, when I helped my daughter prepare for a summer music program, uh, and but she needed to learn the Vivaldi A minor concerto, and then after that, I didn't play at all for 15 years. I was very busy and with work, and uh, then 5 years ago, 2015, my mother was very sick. I don't know if it was related to that, but I decided to start taking lessons again. And I found actually, my wife's teacher suggested somebody who's exactly my age, plays in the Handel and Haydn Society and Pops, and is a very good teacher and a very good fit for me. And I've been taking lessons for 5 years and practicing much more seriously than I did when I was growing up, when I was just, constantly distracted by anxieties and thoughts of girls and all sorts of things. And so I've spent my career spending a lot of time doing things which were not necessarily fascinating in the moment, and so practicing is now much easier for me. And so after a couple of years of that, again, Laura persuaded me uh, to apply to the chamber music workshop, and I did so. I was accepted. I was very anxious. I studied the music very assiduously. In fact, for both of the years I was there, in person, I never participated in any ad hoc sight reading. I would just go and study and study the scores and practice my part in the free time. And I think the first year I managed to I was okay, and I think that I think both years were I acquitted myself passably. It was a very supportive environment. Jessica is absolutely wonderful, and all of the teachers, all the coaches were very supportive, as were most of the most of the other people with whom I was playing. Someone in my in one of my groups was a violist, and she said, "I think you might like to play in my orchestra." And the orchestra she plays in, and in which I'm now playing, is called the Me Too Orchestra, which is an orchestra. It doesn't have to, it's not what you think, but if you Google metooorchestra.org, or just Me Too Orchestra, you'll find it. It is an orchestra comprising musicians who have mental health diagnoses ourselves, or have family members with mental health diagnoses, and the idea is to use classical music as a treatment, and also to try to overcome the stigma by having people who have diagnoses and who don't play music together. The conductor is somebody whom you may know, Ronald Brownstein, who had a meteoric career and was then felled by bipolar illness. Mm-hmm. And he's a wonderful person. He's now married to a woman named Caroline Whidden, who's was a horn player who trained at Eastman, and they met when Ronald got a job as conducting the youth orchestra in Burlington. There are music therapists who are playing in the orchestra. Not everybody has a diagnosis. I mean, I carry a diagnosis of dysthymic disorder, and I see a therapist and take medication. But there are some young people who just want to play music, and then there are some. There are actually a couple, at least I can think of it. I think at least two music therapy people who are getting their degrees in music therapy who have participated. So it's not, unless there may be more of a hidden curriculum than I'm aware of, that Caroline and Ronald are. But the obvious curriculum is. No auditions, no seating auditions. I mean, Ronald picks out the principals, but and anybody who wants to come and play can participate. I think I'm more motivated to explore the music carefully on my own. That may be partly the influence of the teacher, to teach to learn some music theory on my own. It's also, the fact that one can so easily look anything up so easily is clearly is a big help. I think that. The fact that my wife and my children are extremely supportive, and it makes provides, is very is very important. The and I think the I think I'm doing it very much for the moment, actually, and actually that it's, yes, I'm trying to prepare. I'm trying to prepare so that my teacher doesn't feel that he's wasting his time, and I'm trying to prepare so that I don't, that I make as little. I don't make a fool of myself in rehearsals, but I'm also just practicing to get it to get it in tune and to get the rhythm right, and maybe to have it sound musical to me at that time. When I started up again, my violin had just was a mess. The bridge had collapsed. Not only was the bow gone, and so I took it. There's a man in Boston. I don't know if you know his name, Ken Meyer.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So, somehow Rebecca, through her teacher, and I guess because she had a nice violin, had gotten in to see Ken Meyer. And so I called and called and called, and, Ken doesn't answer his phone and doesn't have working voicemail. So eventually I got through to him and I got in and I took the violin to him and he transformed it.
Yeah.
And so suddenly I realized that one of the reasons I had been frustrated growing up was that, it just sounded so much better. And I've since graduated. I've since graduated to another instrument, which actually has a strange story behind it. My father's cousin got very, very ill and finally died, and I had to clean out her apartment in St. Paul. And in the closet there was a violin, and I asked her about it. It had belonged to her ex-husband. He had given it to her. She wanted to learn violin. They were still on good terms, and she told me this before she died. And it was the violin that he had played as a boy in, I don't know if either he was a Dutch Jew who went into hiding during the war, and I don't know if it was before the war or after the war. It may have been after that he had played this violin, and I'm not sure if it was this violin or another one, but this one may have been played at some point in the Concertgebouw. No. So I have another point of contact, but it's a nice factory-made 19th century German violin, and
wow.
So I've realized that instruments actually do matter, and that an instrument that's hard to play can be can provide a major disincentive.
No question, because what you're doing is you're learning how to play your instrument rather than learning how to play.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry you had to learn that the hard way.
Yeah, well.
But it's actually not an uncommon story, believe it or not.
Yeah.
It's more common than you realize. And I think it's one of the things that pedagogy really, from the teacher's point of view, it's a harder thing to address because you're trying to work on how to play, and then also you have an instrument that's got
right. And for the teacher, I can, what's the teacher going to say? Your parents should spend more money,
Well, they do that.
Yeah.
I remember that myself. Oh boy. Yeah. Well, great. This was wonderful. I really really super conversation.
Okay, good.
Story.
Well, thank you. It's good to talk to you.
Great to talk to you too, and thanks so
All
much, and have a good conference or
Right, I will.